In the winter of 1942, an entire German army, nearly 300,000 men, was slowly surrounded in a frozen city and left to die. They had marched east as conquerors. Now they were trapped, starving, and cut off from the world. Their commander begged to retreat. The answer from Berlin was a single word: no. This is the story of the Battle of Stalingrad. The moment the most feared army in the world was lured into a trap of its own making, and the cold mathematics that sealed its fate. Let's break down how it actually happened. By the summer of 1942, Nazi Germany had pushed deep into the Soviet Union. Their next target was a city on the Volga River, Stalingrad. The city mattered, partly for its factories and its position, and partly for its name. It carried the name of the Soviet leader, Stalin. For both sides, it became a matter of pride, and pride is a dangerous thing to bring to a battlefield. The German army was built for speed, tanks, movement, sweeping attacks across open ground. That was the style that had conquered Europe. But Stalingrad pulled them into the one kind of fight they were worst at: a slow, grinding battle through a ruined city. Soldiers fought room by room, floor by floor, for the same building over and over. They called it the Rat War. The German advantage in mobility was gone. Both sides simply fed more men into the ruins. And while the world watched the city burn, something far more dangerous was taking shape out on the open plains. Here is the part that every student of strategy should understand. The German Sixth Army was concentrated in and around the city, but its flanks, the long lines stretching out to the sides, were not held by Germans. They were held by Allied armies, Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian troops, who were less equipped and stretched dangerously thin. The Soviet command saw this weakness, and they built their entire plan around it. It was called Operation Uranus. On the 19th of November, 1942, the Soviets did not attack the strong German center in the city. They attacked the weak flanks on either side. Those lines collapsed quickly. Within just 4 days, the two Soviet arms swept around the city and met behind it. The trap snapped shut. Nearly 300,000 Axis soldiers were now encircled, sealed inside a pocket, with the Soviet army closing in from every direction. This is the first lesson of Stalingrad. You don't have to break the strongest part of your enemy. You find the weakest link and you break that. The Germans guarded the city. They lost the war on the open ground beside it. Now the trapped army had two choices: break out west while they still had the strength, or stay and hold the city as ordered. The commander on the ground, General Friedrich Paulus, wanted to break out, but the order from Hitler was absolute: stay and hold at all costs, no retreat, no surrender. How could a surrounded army survive? The answer came from the head of the Air Force, Hermann Göring. He promised that his planes would supply the trapped men from the sky. Food, fuel, and ammunition flown in every day. And here the numbers tell the whole story. To survive, the trapped army needed at least 300 tons of supplies every single day. Some estimates put the real figure far higher. Göring promised his Air Force could deliver it. It could not even close. On average, the planes delivered barely 100 tons a day. On many days, far less. Soviet anti-aircraft fire and brutal winter weather tore the air fleet apart. So the second lesson of Stalingrad is this: a plan is only as good as its logistics. A promise written on paper means nothing if the math behind it was never possible. Göring's promise was impossible from the first day, and tens of thousands of men paid for that promise with their lives, slowly, through hunger and cold. Through December and into January, the pocket shrank. The men inside ran out of food, then fuel, then hope. A German rescue attempt from the outside pushed toward them and failed. Hitler refused every request to surrender. He even promoted Paulus to the rank of field marshal, a heavy hint, since no German field marshal in history had ever surrendered. The message was clear: die or take your own life. Do not give up. Paulus did not obey. On the 2nd of February, 1943, the last of the trapped forces surrendered. Around 90,000 men were taken prisoner, what was left of an army that had once numbered nearly 300,000. They were starving, frozen, and exhausted, and their ordeal was far from over. Of those 90,000 prisoners, only around 5,000 to 6,000 ever made it home. Many years later, we tell their story with respect, not spectacle. Soldiers and civilians on every side paid an unimaginable price here. Stalingrad was a turning point. Before it, Germany was advancing. After it, Germany was retreating, a long, bloody retreat that would not stop until the war in Europe was over. So what do we learn all these years later? That strength alone does not win wars. The German army at Stalingrad was powerful, experienced, and brave. It was defeated by better strategy, by impossible logistics, and by leaders who refused to face reality until it was far too late. The deadliest mistakes are rarely made on the battlefield. They are made in headquarters by people who will not change a plan that is already failing. If this story gripped you, there's one more piece to this puzzle. To understand how the Germans ended up freezing in that city at all, we have to go back to the most ambitious and most disastrous invasion ever launched, Operation Barbarossa. That's next. Subscribe, and we'll see you there.